So welcome. It's good to see you all again. Somehow it seems like it's been a while, but it's only been a week. It's time. What is time anymore, huh? So welcome. So we're going to, I'll set space so then we can jump into whatever it is we want to hear and say with one another, because that's what we do well here together. So as we sit here in this circle, coming with the intention of sharing, learning, laughing, expanding what is good in our lives and on the planet. Breathe in that energy that comes from beyond Earth. Just imagine it coming through the sun, that portal, recalibrating the energy fields, like putting an extra stamp of good on it for us specifically. If you for a moment imagine that you were one of those teams of the galactic family that was watching our work here. If you were part of that aspect of your family, watching you here, how delighted they must be to know that we are here, that we know of them and they know of us. They can sense, see, and feel what it is we are about, and they're cheering us on. From their perspective, look at yourself in that way. We're here, the sacred ground of sovereignty, cocooned within the vortex of the guardian circle, holding us in arms. We are here to learn and to apply and to expand. And always there are surprises of good. So our circle is set for this day. We are being held securely with love and protection. And with it, the circle is now open for us. And so it is. Okay, so we're going to place ourselves into the circle, name where you're at on the planet, any quality you'd like to put in the circle or awareness. What is it that you'd like to put into the circle? And I just want to again affirm that the collective energy field that is created here because of your presence is unlike any that you'll have anyplace else. It's the same wherever you meet. And that field of intelligence has an awareness within it, has creativity, possibilities. The field itself is active and alive. And so just being here, you already have made a difference. Okay, so placing ourselves in the circle, I'm Sharon Raji Maynard on Whidbey Island, Washington State. And I want to bring into the circle stability and depth. And then I'm going to pass it to Cinda.
I'm Cinda. I'm in just south of Portland, Oregon, and I would love to bring in history. And I'll call Angelique.
Thank you, Cinda. Hello, everyone from the Netherlands, from Den Haag and the West Coast. I'm really happy to be here, and I am bringing into the circle Twilight Zone. And I go to Spirit.
Thank you, Angelique. Hi, everybody. I am happy to be here. Um, I'm in Somerset, New Jersey, and what I bring into the circle is being in tune with more with everything and everyone around us. And I pass it to my sister, Arlie.
Hi, I'm Arlie. I'm in Eastbourne, New Zealand, and I would like to bring in an awakening and a learning quest for truth. Let's put it that way. And I will pass it on to Deborah.
I'm Deborah and I was muted. I'm in Sanford, North Carolina, and I'd like to bring in discernment. And I will pass it to Alexandra.
She can't hear and faces are frozen. So I think she'll keep trying. So how about Tara?
Hi, I'm Tara Razka out in Phoenix, Arizona. We just had a whirlwind of company for the last week and a half. And I think at one point we had 8 people staying in our home outside of our 5 family members. So now they're gone, and I want to bring peace to the, to the circle today. And I would like to call on Christina.
Thank you, Tara. Christina, Zurich, Switzerland. And I would like to bring into the circle acceptance and vaccine. And sorry, and I pass on to Gail.
Thank you, Christina. I'm Gail Kaplan, also known. Can't hear me?
Now I can. Now we can.
Okay, so I'm Gail Kaplan, also known as Lavender Joy in Collingswood, New Jersey. And I would like to bring in lightness and calm. And I pass to Sharon Alexander. You haven't gone, right?
Thank you, Gail. Hi, everyone. I am in Colorado, where it had been raining for the last 2.5 days. Today is a beautiful sunny day, so I bring in refreshment, nourishment, and grounding. And I think that's everyone, correct? Thank you.
Okay, so here we are. Okay, I want us, before we start, let's just take a deep breath and just turn inside individually. We live in communities that are joy-filled, creative, in the sovereignty of our divine family's agendas. Move our consciousnesses and the consciousnesses of all to whom we are connected into that reality. And we ask our PTO and our TAG Healing Collective to tag Transform Deep 6 anything that is, has, or would keep us from that experience. We ask our causal teams, our design teams, to design a program for the highest expression of that chosen experience. download it into the codes of our first dimensional field, and anchor the program into the fifth dimension, the landscape that holds the plans for this lifetime. This reality is designed, chosen, created. It's anchored and activated. And so it is. But then just ask inside, is there any aspect within your field that would prevent you from that experience? And just hear a yes or a no. If you hear a yes, raise your hand. Is there any aspect in my field that would prevent me from that experience? And just hold the space. Call in the PTO, call in the Tag Healing Collective, which is a collective of many modalities, and ask them to deep six that aspect or the group of aspects, releasing any contracts for limit, increasing your team's ability to move you into that expression. That's been chosen, and we so declare. Thank you them for their help in taking that and making it absolutely solid for you. And then we let go. Okay. So here we are. It's class 15. I don't know. Number doesn't matter to you, but it helps me. To keep track. Is there anyone wants to say something before I begin? Yes, Deborah.
You mentioned, I think a couple classes back, that you were activating all the DNA, not just the 2 that we were left with. And I've heard we actually have 20. How many strands of DNA are you looking at that we have?
We work with the basic 15, but there are others beyond that, but the basic 15 in the original. Yeah, we'll get, and that'll be part of what we'll talk about today too, Deborah.
Okay, thank you.
I'll make a note of that here. Any other comments or questions before we hop? Okay, so today we're going to go to that, we've talked about the galactic worlds, the corrections we've made there, the things that had been trapping us. And with the understanding that since those causes, those foundations have been eliminated, probably 95%, I run into some problem in the galactic worlds periodically, but not very often. We come to Earth mission again. And Earth mission was one of many. There had been many along the way, not for Earth. How do we get ourselves freed of the outsider domination? How do we get ourselves free? Once we invited them in, then it was like, how do we get ourselves free? And so there had been many ways we had tried to do that. And of course, here we are in this day and time, and we can look back and go like, whoa, we're still there. We're still dealing with it. I'm going to stop a minute. And Alex, you're on the phone, right?
Yes, I just got on.
Perfect. I'm just going to rename you here, okay?
We're having a big storm and I can't get on any of my devices.
Okay. Do you know how to unmute by your phone if need be, Alexandra?
No, I don't.
I think it's *6.
*6. Is that when I'm keep it on *6 unless I want to speak?
Yes, try *6. That should put you on mute.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you very much for your patience.
Yeah, glad you're here. I'm glad you've been persistent.
Okay.
So Earth Plan was almost like a last ditch effort because the energy was diminishing. I mean, parasitics, the hosts of the parasitics eventually are sucked dry. And that was what was going on. So this Earth to be physical, in other words, it would take energy that's very, very higher frequency and slow it down so that it would become more solid, so that we could see them. They were slipping away so fast. They were so deceptive. We just thought it would be a better way of seeing them. So therefore, the law of manifestation, personal choice, so that we could quickly, one person, one soul could say, gotcha, I see you, and have it, and at least identify it. Personal choice rather than group consensus. But we needed the authority to do that. And when we were, all of our soul groups in those 7 families were owned by the parasitics. We'd given the power away, they'd taken away. And so therefore 2 bodysuits. So the bodysuits represent assignments. So when a soul chooses to be incarnated into a female body, it's not really to have children. In this day and time, it has a lot to do with that, because that's become part of our group mind. But originally it wasn't about birthing children, it was about authority. So a soul coming into the female body was the assignment to have the authority to identify. That's why you have a sensory system that's a little bit more sensitive than a male's, you see, so that you're sensing things. Unfortunately, we haven't kept up with what, why, or wherefore. So our ultra sensitive, sometimes we are seen as so weird. We see ourselves as so weird that we haven't learned the language. Hi, Abby. Of what that sensitivity means. But that's part of the female bodysuit, the sensitivity. Why? To discern outsider frequencies, domination frequencies. And so why would you discern vibrations of outsider domination? But to be able to name them outsider domination, not of our light, move them back to where they came from, the authority voice. Well, those who coming into the male body, that assignment for the male body was to kind of stay out of the way and keep the outsiders diverted. Sitting by the edge of the stream, soaking his feet, eating the apples off the tree with nothing, looking like he was doing nothing yet. Because he was owned, his bodysuit was owned, double owned. And the outsiders were monitoring him, were watching him. How can we now use him? What's he going to create that we can now suck dry? He was creating nothing, because that he was keeping them diverted. But nevertheless, the energy coming through the crown chakra, all possibilities, moving through his bodysuit through the heart, that was to imprint that energy with unique frequencies for the village. So he was like putting extra energy storage, because energy is our currency. Energy is that which is our resource. So he would put that unique frequencies in the village, resonating and adding his color of heart to it. Not for him to use, females to use. Now that doesn't mean that he wouldn't dig pole holes for the fences, but still there was a distance, because he was to keep the outsiders diverted. Then where were the outsiders? Around the male. So the females could get their work done. Their first job was to make sure that they had a village that was sustainable. So the possibilities of the ideas that they could use, the idea, let's try this type of food, let's move to another part on the planet, let's look around. The ideas that would come for her, for the female soul in the female bodysuit, was ideas about sustainability, base chakra. What do we need? Hold the idea, creative chakra, manifest, and then it becomes form. And so her first responsibility was to get stability there for each village. And there were many villages. There were several villages around the planet when we first came, close to 600,000 years ago or so. So here we are, and everything's going along quite well. So what I was told is that there were three different stages of the bodysuit. We had the original bodysuit, male body and female body, and they were programmed in the chakra system, or the power centers, or the DNA. They were programmed differently. So there was a natural unfoldment for those two assignments. So female causal chakra, where the plants were made, the causal plane, down to feet being on the earth, rooted down into the earth, moving up to the base chakra, moving up to the creative chakra, moving up to then the solar plexus chakra. Beyond that, we won't go right now. But then the male causal chakra, where plans were made in the causal plane, down through the crown chakra, down to the heart, and that was where he was to remain. So that was the original body. Once they discovered that there was a second body suit on the planet, a soul in a second body suit on the planet, that they had not known of, the outsiders had not known of, then what they did is they crippled the suits. And they could do that just because they owned the male body. They could cripple the male body, and they could use the male body to cripple the female body. Now, exactly the process that went on, I don't know, but the body was crippled. Then after a period of time, they totally replaced the bodysuits themselves with ones they had designed, so that the bodysuits then had two active DNA strands, survive and procreate. It didn't have the full spectrum of what we would call evolutionary development. It was only a slave body, procreate, survive. And it's reflected in the 7 chakras. I think it's, you know, having to really be aware of, work, and even awaken what would be the 7 chakras that we now work with would make sense, because in the crippled body, it wasn't a given. It wasn't a given that they just wake up and one by one by one move us through the steps. So there's a lot of work even with those 7 chakras without most of us. But now we're getting back to the original bodysuit. So how was the bodysuit crippled? And that's really important to know. The major way the bodysuit was crippled is in the wiring. The power center in the female body was the solar plexus. That was her power center. That was to be her base. That's where decisions were to be made. Discernment was there. That's where her sensitivity, I could feel things, sense things, make decisions, and eliminate outside dominators. So that was a very important center in a female mission. The male mission was, his power center was the heart. The heart, giving that what we would call love, but it's unlimited, no, without judgment. Here's possibilities. Here's all the breath of home into the village with my special blessing, coming from the heart. And that was his power center. From the heart was what he would discern, where he could be, where he could not be, what would be safe, what would not be safe, was his heart. So any questions so far? I think some of this is a review, but it'll take us to where we're going.
I just want to say that I love the specificity, like the clarity, like this is pulling it all together. Everything you've told us everything I've learned from you over the last few months. This is like, thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, you're welcome. So I didn't pay much attention when they first told me there, there was original body, then there was a crippled body, then there was a replacement body. I mean, that, how you learn something, it doesn't make sense until you learn some more pieces along the way. So, I went, okay. But then when I began to study just a little bit about the Neanderthals, I went, my gosh, the way they lived, there was a lot in there that was very much in alignment to the original plan. They did not increase. They weren't there to have lots of children. They stayed at about the same number. They had a very highly developed immune system, which definitely is reflective of the immune system for humanity, which is the female T cell, as a T cell in humanity, to be the one who alerts and says, hey, there's a problem here. So I thought it was interesting that they felt like their immune system is pretty highly developed. Very much, they figure more telepathic than language, and highly intelligent. They're now understanding they are probably more intelligent. And then nobody knows why exactly there were all of us, it was almost like, where did the body go? Where did that body go? And the Cro-Magnon that came in the second phase in relationship to that stream, they find that there might have been a little inner hanky-panky, sexuality going on, but it wasn't that the Cro-Magnon suit did not evolve from the Neanderthal suit. The Neanderthal suit was a standalone. Then became the Cro-Magnon, which would be representative of that crippled wiring, and then the Homo sapien, which is what they call us, Homo sapiens, would be more reflective then of that suit that was replaced by the outsiders. So they didn't even have to deal with what was originally there. So here you are, the contracts for, when I asked where were those contracts held within the male body, and they said they were held within the gonads. So just as a point of, it was just like, oh, okay, until a little bit later on. So here we are at looking back at the first wave. The Neanderthals were doing really well. And then what happened? And of course, I think we've talked about the Garden of Eden is really a good model, if you will, for how the outsiders discovered the female body and then what they did about it. So here's the garden, lush garden. Who brought that into manifestation was the female, with the male's support energetically, the nurturing energetically. The male's role was to be the nurturer, to have her back, to have the villages back, not to fight, a nurturer. And she took that energy and she created forms from it that allowed her family and the village to thrive. And I think that's a really important point for us here in this circle, because we have the same opportunity to make our lives, our families, and our village thrive. And we've been cut off from that too, but we're taking it back. So she made the lust village symbolic of thriving. And then what happened? A little glitch in communication, maybe too close to the monitoring system. That here comes this female bodysuit too close to the male body, where the monitoring system picks up this weird bleep. What's this bleep? And it's not a system bleep. There's something going on down there that we don't know about. And we see that as she takes him into the garden. She's so excited. She wants him to have that experience. It wasn't his experience. It wasn't to be his experience, to be sensitive enough to taste the difference between what would be expansive and what would be constrictive. It was not his experience. But he went into the garden. He ate the apple, theoretically ate the apple, but close enough, you see, that in her excitement, she was discovered. And immediately, who shows up in the garden? Immediately. And we are clearly told who showed up in the garden. God. Eve had no God. She was a free agent, a representative, an ambassador from the divine family. She had no God. There was no God in that story. We don't have gods in our divine star families. It's not in our construct. So who was this God? Was clearly who did Adam have to be obedient to? Because when we think of God, we think of a power over, benevolent or not benevolent, obey the power over. So who in that story had to obey? It was Adam. Because he had to obey. He was owned. So here this God shows up in the garden, and he's a very pleasant, hey, what's going on here? What do you think you're doing here? Well, you're not supposed to have this information, the information of knowing that good and evil, or that there is a difference, that we can discern good and evil. You're not supposed to have that knowledge. That's for the gods. I mean, clearly tells us that's for the gods, and you can't have that knowledge. And it was true for Adam. He could not. It wasn't even his assignment. But it wasn't true for Eve. Quote, Eve being just a representation, as is Adam. It wasn't true for Eve. So what happened with Eve is, what I'm told is that broadcasting, you're not enough, kicked in again. You're not enough. And the decision was made by that construct of Eve to say, I'm going to give it a little more time. I'm not really sure. I think that's what I'm feeling correctly. How many times do we do that in our life? Am I really feeling what I'm feeling? Well, I don't know. I'll just wait a while. Well, I'll just try it on. Well, and we don't instantly go like, I know. And she didn't either. And she went, okay, I'm just going to go along with this program because I think I got it figured out, and I'll just get stronger. The assumption for her was that she'd get stronger. She'd give herself a little time. And that's when the wiring was changed. So she had no more time. In that village, she had no more time. Her wiring was destroyed. Everything that was decreed, and I won't go through everything that was decreed, but you'll work and I'll tell you, I'll give you bread. You work for me and I'll give you bread. You cannot create effortlessly anymore. You're the cause of everything that's wrong with the world, female. I'm going to take this great gift held by the serpent, and I am going to make you think that serpent is so bad, so ugly, so dangerous. You, female, will crush him under your feet. You will crush him. You will crush the very thing that is your assignment. You will trod on him, and he will be seen as nothing. Boy, that's been true. How many times a woman trying to speak her truth about what she's sensing and what she's feeling and what she thinks needs to be done is, you're too sensitive. It's showing you your imagination. Get your big boots on. How many times have women been discounted in their sensitive voice? Oh yeah. There we go. And then the wiring. So the female wiring literally bypassed the solar plexus. It bypassed, it didn't even automatically open the power center of discernment. Instead, that bodysuit was wired directly to the heart that she was to serve ongoingly without any discernment, without ever having the ability to say no. Wired to her heart, which was never supposed to open without that gateway of the Sophia Power Discernment Center. So she was wired to the heart and not able to speak and be heard when she said, there's a problem here. So learn to obey. The male's wiring bypassed the heart. It's not that mothers have done a job on their male children to make them non-feelers. The bodysuit itself bypassed the heart center and connected the guidance center from the heart to the gonads. Who's the prettiest girl? Who do I have as a candy on my arm? You know, all about sexuality. Well, who rules the sexuality in the bodysuit itself? Outsiders. It's perfect for them. And crippling for our men. And crippling for us. Okay, so I'm going to just stop at this point. And I'm going to have you take, say, a 5-minute break. And I want you to just also, when you come back, we're going to have maybe another minute or two, just kind of be quiet, because I want to hear where you're at with all of this at this point. Okay, so we're going to come back at 45 after the hour. Prepared to kind of sit with it, think about it, maybe discuss it a little bit, and then we'll go on. So I'll see you in 5.